When it comes to video games, few topics divide players more than emulation. On one side, you have preservationists and nostalgic gamers who see emulators as a lifeline, a way to experience and protect classic titles that might otherwise be lost to time. On the other, you have developers and publishers who view emulation as piracy, a direct threat to their hard work and revenue. So, who's right? And is there a good reason to emulate? Today, we're exploring the world of game emulation, what it is, why people do it, and whether it's really as black and white as some make it out to be. At its core, an emulator is software that mimics the hardware of a console. It lets you run games meant for one system, like the NES, PlayStation 2, or even the Nintendo Switch, on another device such as a PC, phone, or Steam Deck. The game files themselves, often called ROMs or ISOs, are digital copies of the original cartridges or discs. Emulation itself isn't illegal, it's the distribution of copyrighted game files that crosses the legal line. In other words, owning an emulator is fine. Downloading commercial games you don't own is not. But in practice, that line gets blurry fast. For example, many players claim they're just backing up games they already own. Others use emulation to access titles that are no longer available for purchase, classics locked behind defunct consoles, delisted stores, or licenses that expired decades ago. The topic of emulation exploded again in 2023 after The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom leaked online weeks before its official release. Hackers managed to create a playable ROM and distribute it across the internet, leading to thousands of players running the game on Switch emulators. Nintendo responded the only way Nintendo knows how, with swift and aggressive legal action. The company unleashed its lawyers on websites, Discord servers, and even YouTube creators, who so much as reacted to leaked footage. In fact, God of War writer and streamer Alana Pierce was temporarily banned from Twitch after reacting to an officially released Zelda preview, not even a leak, because Nintendo's copyright filters went into overdrive. It's understandable that Nintendo wants to protect its biggest franchise, but this incident raised an important question. At what point does enforcement become overreach? When the algorithm starts flagging innocent creators, it shows how messy the line between preservation, piracy, and fair use has become. Let's be honest, not everyone who uses emulators is trying to steal. For many, it's the only realistic way to access older titles. Think about it. The average gamer can't walk into a store and buy a physical copy of Chrono Trigger for the NES, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or Def Jam Fight for New York. Even if they could, the prices for used copies are often outrageous, sometimes hundreds of dollars for a single game. Meanwhile, many official re-releases are locked behind subscription services or limited digital storefronts. When Nintendo shut down the Wii U and 3DS eShops, for example, dozens of digital-only games effectively vanished forever. There's no legal way to buy them anymore, and once they're gone, they're gone. This is where preservationists argue that emulation is not theft, but cultural protection. They see it as a digital equivalent of archiving films or books, ensuring that game history doesn't get lost in corporate vaults. If you've made it this far and are enjoying what you've seen and heard, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. But there's another side of that coin. For developers and publishers, emulation isn't just a moral issue, it's a financial one. Creating games takes years of effort, creativity, and money. When people pirate brand new releases like Tears of the Kingdom or Resident Evil 4 Remake, it can directly affect sales and hurt people who have worked on them. Companies argue that emulation undermines their ability to control the profit from their own product. And in some cases, it can damage their reputation, especially if emulated versions of the games are buggy or incomplete, giving players a poor experience they might wrongly attribute to the developer. Nintendo, in particular, has built its brand on quality control and tightly managed IP. To them, even one unapproved version circulating online is a threat to that image. And while it's true that many older games are unavailable through official means, companies like Capcom and Konami have started re-releasing collections. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection, Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, Mega Man Legacy Collection, and others. These efforts show that legitimate preservation and profits can coexist, even if not every company follows suit. Still, even with these collections, there's a big problem. Not everything is being preserved. If you're a fan of retro wrestling games, for example, you won't find the old WWF No Mercy or SmackDown titles on any digital storefront. Marvel fans can't buy classics like X-Men, Mutant Apocalypse, or Spider-Man Maximum Carnage because of complicated licensing issues. Players don't necessarily want to break the law, they just want to play the games they love. But when publishers ignore these titles for decades, what choice do fans have? Emulation, for many, becomes an act of desperation rather than rebellion. Another argument often made by those against emulation is quality. Some claim that emulated games can't match the performance or feel of the originals. That's sometimes true. Input lag, sound glitches, and inaccurate rendering can all distort the experience. But modern emulators have come a long way. In fact, many can enhance the visuals of older games far beyond their original capabilities, running them in HD or even 4K, adding texture filters, widescreen support, and save states. Some fans even use emulators to mod and restore games, fixing bugs, translating unreleased Japanese titles, or resurrecting multiplayer servers long shut down. These community efforts, while technically unofficial, have preserved parts of gaming history that might otherwise be gone forever. The deeper question might not be, is emulation wrong, but rather, why is emulation necessary? If publishers consistently preserve and re-release their back catalogs, fewer players would feel the need to emulate in the first place. Imagine a world where every major game company had a comprehensive digital archive, where you could easily purchase any classic game from the past 40 years at a fair price. Instead, games are often treated as disposable products. Once the next generation arrives, the old ones vanish, along with their servers, patches, and DLC. Movies and music have long embraced digital preservation through streaming and archival projects. Gaming, unfortunately, lags far behind. When Nintendo closed its eShops, the Video Game History Foundation described it as a gut punch for game preservation. They argued that while Nintendo has every legal right to shut down those stores, doing so removes access for hundreds of games, including many developed by smaller studios that may never see the light of day again. So, when fans turn to emulation to fill that gap, are they really criminals or just historians? The truth is, emulation isn't going anywhere. It's been around since the early days of computing and will continue as long as players care about gaming's past. The challenge is finding balance, respecting both creators' rights and the community's passion for preservation. A possible solution could lie in collaboration. Instead of fighting emulation outright, companies could embrace it, offering official emulators and ROM libraries under subscription models or a la carte prices. Services like GOG, Good Old Games, has proven this can work, providing DRM-free access to classic PC titles legally and profitably. Even Nintendo's own virtual consoles and Switch Online libraries show that fans are more than willing to pay for nostalgia, if given the chance. Until that happens, emulation will remain both a blessing and a curse, a bridge between eras that exists because the industry hasn't built one itself. So, is emulation wrong? Maybe the better question is, what's your intent? If you're pirating brand new games to avoid paying for them, that's not preservation, that's theft. But if you're using an emulator to play a decades-old game that's unavailable through legal channels, the morality becomes murkier. Emulation can harm developers when misused, but it can also honor them when done responsibly. It's how many of us first discovered gaming history, from the 8-bit classics to forgotten gems. At its heart, emulation reflects something deeply human, the desire to preserve, to remember, and to relive the joy of play. So whether you see it as piracy or preservation, one thing is clear: video game history deserves to be protected. And until the industry does that on its own, emulation will continue to exist, not just as a form of rebellion, but as an act of love for the medium itself. Let me know down in the comments, where do you stand on emulation? Is it wrong Or is it necessary? Let's keep the conversation going. This has been 3PC, past, present, pop culture. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.